Hello and welcome to On the Sunny Side, a new digital TV format by the German-speaking edition on Forbes on the F15 YouTube channel. I'm Sunny Grineveld. I'm an entrepreneur and Forbes Under 30 list maker, and every week I meet with entrepreneurs, executives, and researchers to discuss topics around tech for good, how to transform the digital economy, and what we can learn from technologists from around the world. Now, today I am tremendously honored to have an extraordinary guest on the show, Professor Claude Nicollier, the only Swiss astronaut on this planet.
Well, thank you, Sunny. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be part of the sunny side today.
No, it's such a pleasure. Today you're in EPFL these days, where you teach as a professor in space technology, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully gleaning some insights and some wisdom from all that you've learned about this planet, but also outer space. So I'm so excited about that. And the way we usually start this show, many people who tune in regularly know this, is with something I call Sunny's Fast Five questions to get to know you as a guest a little bit more, hopefully in answers of one sentence or less. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready. Go ahead.
Excellent. So first question is, are you a morning or a night person?
I'm a night person. I was an astronomer a long time, and astronomers are night persons.
And if you could travel in a time machine to any time and anywhere, where would you travel?
Well, in the past, I would travel about a century ago when we had these fantastic discoveries in relativity, expansion of the universe. The last century was a wonderful discovery century in physics and astrophysics, and I would travel there. In the future, I would travel to when we discover in a clear manner the first life outside of the Earth in the universe. In 10 years, 20 years, 50, I don't know, it will happen someday. I want to be there.
Wow, exciting. I'm going to get deeper into that extraterrestrial life in just a minute, but to wrap this up, what is something you're learning right now in the present?
Well, I'm learning a lot about lunar habitat and the possibility for humans to live on the surface of the moon. In a few years from now, we'll be there again.
Exciting. Wow. And what is success to someone like you?
Well, success is really setting goals to yourself and reaching these goals within a reasonable time. But the goals have to have a ethical meaning. The goal of becoming a millionaire next year doesn't have a lot of ethics in it, but it's either in education or in discovery or in helping people reaching an ethical goal. That's success.
And now if we look to what you have done in your life, being an astronaut, what is it that fascinates you about space?
Well, space is it's a extraordinary inspiration for me. And the possibility to observe it with telescopes and various machines from the ground or from space, and being there was for me the realization of a child's dream. And I still have an enormous fascination for space. Fascination, this is the word.
And so, I mean, we talked just before a little bit about extraterrestrial life. What makes you certain that in the future we will discover it?
I'm absolutely convinced that the universe is full of life. I have no proof right now, but I'm convinced that it is so, and it will take time to discover this for sure, but I'm convinced that this century will find it. The universe is full of life.
When did you know you wanted to pursue this dream for real?
Well, I had several objectives initially: become an astronomer and a pilot, and I could become both, but only when there was a possibility for Europeans to go into space, and that was decided in the mid-70s by invitation by NASA to the European Space Agency to have Europeans involved in the shuttle program. Then it became one goal for me, and I pursued that goal, and it worked. I was very lucky. I worked, but I was essentially lucky.
One unlucky aspect, perhaps, I don't know how you see it, but when you got to Houston, something that in a way delayed your start into space was the Challenger accident. You had to wait an extra 6 years, meaning that you had to train up for 12 years until you could actually get into space. Now, 12 years is a very long time to stay in Houston and to stay on the ground and to know actually I'm here to fly into space. How did you keep the motivation high in that time?
Well, I always kept the motivation. When an astronaut is hired by an agency, whether it's NASA or ESA or Roscosmos in Russia, he or she is nearly certain to go into space sometime in the future. A few astronauts or cosmonauts go in space 3, 4, 5 years after they are hired. For me, it was a longer time. I was the only non-American astronaut assigned to the Johnson Space Center together with NASA astronaut. I did not have a lot of priority, I have to say. And after the Challenger accident, I could only fly as a European on a mission carrying European payload. And the next one after the Challenger accident was in the early 90s, tethered satellite and Eureka. So I had to wait. I always kept motivated. I did a lot of things. I learned to become a better astronaut because I had a longer time in training and in getting to know the shuttle in more detail. So I was never discouraged. It was a long time, but time was well used.
When we met the first time at an event, the Naval Security E-Forum, you gave me a card, and I'm going to show it here because it's a perfect segue into our next question, which is, this is you out in space, and you're repairing, I believe, a space tech instrument. Could you speak to what you're doing here and how this came about?
Okay, well, this picture was taken on the 23rd of December 1999, and I was spacewalking with Mike Fowle, one American colleague, to do repair work on the Hubble Space Telescope at an altitude of 600 kilometers on orbit. We spent 8.5 hours outside replacing the main computer of Hubble and one camera. And by the way of camera of Hubble, look at the background view here. This is a picture taken by Hubble of a cloud of gas and dust in our galaxy, out of which stars are born. Our sun was born out of such a cloud about 4.6 billion years ago. Hubble is a wonderful instrument, and for me, it was a privilege to be able to put my hands on it and work on it, replace the brain of Hubble, a computer, and replace a camera also. Wonderful day.
It's beautiful. It's just absolutely magnificent. Wow. And Hubble is still still running, isn't it?
Hubble is in good shape, yes. It was launched 30 years ago. It was in April 1990, and we just celebrated on the 24th of April this year, the 30 years of Hubble. So it's been there a long time. And the reason why it had such a long productive life is that we had the opportunity to visit it 5 times total and do repair work and exchange instruments. It's working very well now, but its days are counted. We expect that in a few years we'll have problem with either gyroscopes or batteries and it will die. But it's been a wonderful instrument, extraordinarily productive. Look at this picture again. This is so beautiful.
So beautiful. It is so beautiful. It is incredible. And it's fascinating. It makes you want to go there. It makes you want to understand what is this beauty, and how is it that we are even a part of it. What a humbling thing to think about. Now, talking about exploration, you're a pilot, you're an astronaut. are we going to one day travel, like pilots now travel from continent to continent, or usually in most years, these days it's a little more difficult with COVID-19, but still, are we going to travel the same way one day to planets, do you believe?
I think to the moon, yes. In a few decades, I think people may be spending, I wouldn't say a weekend, but maybe a few weeks on the moon. It's going to be expensive initially, but the prices will go down. To other planets like Mars, that's going to be hard because it's a long travel of several months in a completely black environment, and living on Mars is going to be pretty hard. That's going to be fine for explorers, for um, tourists. I would say probably not in the foreseeable future. Of course, we never know what will happen in 100 years or 500 years, but not in the foreseeable future. But the moon, yes.
So you think Elon Musk's dream of colonialization of Mars is something that might not be possible in the ways that he imagines it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I personally don't believe in it. Again, in a distant future, possibly, but not in a foreseeable future. It's going to be fine for explorers or settlement of a small number of people, but not large-scale colonization. I don't believe in it personally.
Fascinating, Claude. I wish I could continue this conversation forever. Still so much to learn about space. What is a resource or a book which you feel like people who are fascinated by space or want to learn more about it, they should consult?
Um, of course, there are a lot of books about the new universe and the string theory and the expansion of the universe and the acceleration of the expansion. There are some new books, but I think this book by Cosmos Carl Sagan was a wonderful inspiration for me. There is a book by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Welcome to the Universe, which is a very good book also. It's quite recent, and it explains to you how the stars work and how the universe works in general and what are the steps of evolution from the Big Bang 13.7 billion years ago until now. These are two books that I would recommend.
I will link those in the description of this YouTube video so people can find them easily. Now, is there any organization or initiative or cause that you would like people to know about?
Well, obviously, I was a ESA astronaut. The European Space Agency is a great organization. NASA also, there's a lot of cooperation between the two. These are big organizations. I would say within NASA, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California is a wonderful institution. This is a place from where they control robots on the surface of Mars and the various space probes traveling the solar system. And the equivalent in Europe is ESOC, ESOC, European Space Operations Center, Darmstadt, Germany. Now, as far as a small startup, there is one that I'm thinking about, Clear Space. It's a small startup here in Switzerland, in Lausanne. And the goal is to remove debris in space. Space is becoming very crowded. Low Earth orbit has a lot of objects that are no longer useful, either old satellite or space debris. About 20,000 such debris of more than 10 centimeters in size between 200 kilometers altitude, which is about the lowest possible orbit, and 2,000. This is called the low Earth orbit region. And we need to go and clean up space. And this startup, Clear Space, is going to do this in a few years from now, starting to remove debris in space. Of course, there are a lot of startups that have as a goal to help people, help poor people, help children in the world. I support personally very strongly a small startup in Geneva called ASED, A-S-E-D, Action de soutien pour l'enfance en détresse, to help children in the world, provide them education and schools. So I like the organizations that are related to space and organizations that are related to helping people who need help on the surface of planet Earth.
I will link all of those too for anybody who would like to learn more about these organizations and initiatives. I think they're very wonderful in the mission that they're trying to accomplish. Now, closing question. What are many people who watch this show are leaders, be this that they have their own companies, be it that they are in leadership positions in larger organizations. What are some of the leadership lessons that you have learned traveling to space?
Well, as far as leadership is concerned, for me, the two key elements are trust and respect. I think if we have a leader who has complete trust in all the people who are working for him or her, and if there's a total respect also mutual in both directions between the leader and the workers, and the workers and the leader, then the organization is working well. And obviously in every space mission, there was a hierarchy of people having different responsibilities. In fact, the boss for every space mission was a flight director in the Mission Control Center in Houston. It was not the commander on board the spaceship. The boss was a flight director leading the group of controllers in the flight control room, and there was a very close relationship between what was done in the control room and what was done on board. Of course, for everything done locally on board the spaceship, if we suddenly lose an astronaut during a spacewalk, we're not going to talk at length with Mission Control Center. The commander will take the right step in order to save the lost astronaut. But as far as the overall mission conduct is concerned, the leader was on the ground. And again, there was always total trust and respect, both directions in all these parties. This is the secret of a good leadership. But of course, a leader should not be involved in any detailed operation. He has or she has the people working for him or her, the spacewalkers, the robotic system, the people taking care of the spacecraft system. But again, trust and respect. These are the key words.
Thank you so much, Claude, for this incredibly insightful conversation. I have been catapulted to space and have shared some of your fascination for, these few minutes, and I'm so grateful I got to do that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Sunny. It was a great pleasure for me.
So here in the Forbes 15 YouTube channel, we will continue at 5:30 with Klaus Fiala, the editor-in-chief of Forbes, discussing with some of the greatest business minds. That's his show. And on my part, you'll see me back on Thursday, 4 p.m. Very much looking forward to that, and see you very soon on the sunny side.